Yes, you did read that correctly. After just about a month of ownership of the Fitbit Charge 4, I've decided to return it, mainly because of the quality control issues I've found with it, dating back all the way to the Charge 3 that I've had. I actually did a review of it, kind of an extended one, a little while ago up here, so check that out if you're interested. So I'm just going to go into some of the features that I've found to be troublesome and some of the design flaws, and specifically in my situation, the display issues that I've had. Just to give you some background of my ownership history, I've had the Charge 2, I had it for about 6 months, and then I sold it when the Charge 3 came out. I got the Charge 3, and the Charge 3 I had, I would say in total for about a year and a half, maybe a little bit less than that. The issue being that at the 10-month mark, I had my screen just completely crap out, and once I got that replaced from Fitbit, about 6 months later, I had my other screen of the refurbished unit they sent me crap out also. So considering that the Charge 4 uses the same screen as the Charge 3, that became a little bit worrisome to me. You know, after having spent $140, $150, and then a year and change later having that break, I didn't really feel like buying another Charge 3 at the time. So what I did was I bought the Inspire HR. It's a little bit of a smaller device. I like the aesthetics of it a little bit more, and I just find it more comfortable to use in general. And that being said, it's also a different screen, so I figured, you know, maybe they don't have issues with that. So the Charge 4 is the same screen, and guess what? A few weeks into my ownership, probably 3 weeks in, I had an issue with the device. And I actually reached out to Fitbit customer support, and they ran me through some steps, some of the resets where you can hold the button for about 8 seconds, which I'm well familiar with from the Charge 3 fiascos I had. And the device did not work. And to their credit, they offered to have the device shipped to them and send me a new unit. But for me, the issue with that is they're probably going to send me a refurb unit, which might have had an issue and is not the same quality as a new unit. So I will be returning this unit, and I will be sticking to the Inspire HR. Now, that is the bottom line. Clearly, I'm going to go into some more detail of why I did like it and why I didn't like it at the same time. I do think Fitbit either needs to completely change the screen or have some better quality control for these screens, because I've gone through 3 units in pretty much a year and a half, and to me that's a pretty high failure rate. So, you know, you don't really want to be out of luck like I was when you're past the 1-year mark of a warranty and there's nothing you can do about it. So I've definitely chosen to stick to the Inspire HR. It's simple, it does what I need, and for me, I like the aesthetic of it better. So that's the bottom line of this video. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about the design aspects, what they changed, what they didn't change, and a little bit of like my usage in terms of the activity tracking, the battery life, the new features, and the GPS. One of the things I mentioned in my Charge 3 review was that when the Charge 4 came out, it would be nice to have it have wireless charging so that, you know, you don't have to always carry around a separate charger to charge the Charge 3. That's a little mouthful. Once the Charge 4 came out, it turns out they actually managed to even render the Charge 3 charger useless, because the Charge 3 is a tiny bit shorter, so the Charge 4 is actually bigger, bulkier, and it will not fit within this clasp here. So to distinguish that, they have the black cable on the old one and the gray on the new one, as you can see. So that's definitely on my wish list for the Charge 5 whenever that comes out in a year or two. Another feature I discussed which has not been changed is the ability to select within certain apps which notifications will actually come through. So I use WhatsApp a lot for a family that's internationally located, and it's not a possibility to actually have a WhatsApp call distinguish between a WhatsApp message. So if I enable the notifications on here, then WhatsApp is just spamming me nonstop. Whereas a voice call is something that I would want to be notified, you know, of. So that's something that I really wish they would change. In terms of the battery life, the Charge 4 is the same as the Charge 3. A little bit more on that later with the new GPS. So in terms of the software side of things, I think there's still a few updates they could make that would enhance the experience. Now, one thing I think that's kind of good and bad about the Charge 4 is the removable straps. So we do have compatible straps from the Charge 3, which is nice if you're upgrading and you still want to use those. But on the downside, if you can see the kind of jagged edges here, that kind of jagged design on it is really not something I like. It protrudes significantly, and as it's pretty bulky, if you kind of rest your arm on it when you're sleeping or something like that, it can be a little uncomfortable. Where the HR, the Inspire HR, as you can see, is very rounded and is pretty smooth and has a lower profile. So I find this one a lot more comfortable, and I really like the design of it. So for the Charge 5, I would definitely be pro a sleeker design for it. Now, given that the Charge 4 actually hasn't changed too much other than, some of the Spotify feature, the wireless paying, which I haven't tried personally. The other review I did do, will go into more detail of my thoughts of the actual experience of using the Charge. One thing I do want to talk about here, though, is the GPS feature. And I've used the Charge 4 a lot for going on runs, biking. I use the Charge 3 a lot for swimming, but given COVID, it's pretty tough to find a pool that you can kind of swim in. So I did a lot of kind of tests where I would, run for a certain distance. I would track it in Strava. I would turn my Bluetooth off on my phone so that the Fitbit wasn't syncing. And then I would independently track the run as well, or the bike ride, with the GPS feature in the Charge 4. And I typically, between the two, I only got a few percent difference, but there were a few occasions where I got, some greater differentials, which didn't really inspire too much confidence, given that I was tracking on Strava on my Note 10, which has, a state-of-the-art GPS and is a good baseline, I would say, for the distance measurement. And then I also, looked at the actual path I took in Google Maps to get an exact and very precise measurement of what the actual distance was. And where I had those big discrepancies, it turns out that the Charge 4 was a little bit off. I'll cut to a clip right now that I took on one of my bike rides. You can kind of see for yourself the battery degradation and how much the GPS actually does suck the battery, which is a pretty significant amount on the Charge 4. So that 7-day battery life figure, if you're going on a couple runs or a couple bike rides in a week, you're going to be charging it pretty much every day or every other day, depending on how long that actual run is, or that bike ride. All right, so we're doing probably like a 2 or 3 mile bike ride. I'm at 43% starting this ride, so we'll see what it gets to after the 3 miles or so. So a little update, we're at 2.08 miles, you can see. And what's the battery at? 20%. So as you can see from that clip, it killed about a little over 20% battery in just about a 3 mile bike ride, which is really not that good. So for those of you, looking at this device for specifically the GPS feature, I would definitely say that there are some better alternatives that are more accurate that you can get out there. Some of the Garmin's, granted, you will pay a little bit more, but if you really care about the phone-free approach of running or biking or whatnot, then some of those Garmin's might be a better pick for that. I do typically run with my phone for music purposes. I don't use Spotify, so having the music for me is nice with the phone, and that's why I actually don't mind the Inspire HR. It's more basic, but it's keeping track of my heart rate and all that stuff, which is nice. And so I actually don't mind linking it up to the phone if I do a bike ride or if I go for a run. They actually claim about 5 hours with GPS on, so that is a pretty limited number there. And something like the Garmin can give you better splits of your run times and all that. I've ran with a friend who has one, and the amount of data that he has on his wristwatch versus what the Fitbit shows is pretty staggering. Not to mention, when you are in an activity, you can't really back out and go check anything else in the actual device. So you can't go and like check the weather, you can't really change anything unless you finish that activity, which personally I find very annoying. And that's something I think Fitbit needs to fix overall in their software. Now, while the Spotify control is nice, I think something that would be even better would be to have some integrated flash storage on board, so that you could either, have some of your Spotify music offloaded onto the charge, or perhaps you could just upload your own music, and that would truly make it a more standalone device, where then you could, have your GPS, have your pay in here, Fitbit Pay, which, would be easy to go to CVS and grab like a Gatorade after a run. And then also you have music, so then you could pair it with your wireless earbuds. And in that case, then, maybe you wouldn't need a phone at all. So I think that would be definitely an appealing feature that they should put in the Charge 5 and make it more of a standalone unit, where I would definitely forgive a lower battery life, where, I can go out and have the freedom of not bringing my phone and be able to use it to pay with anything, and also have the GPS there for the tracking. So I think they have definitely a little bit of work to do for the 5 in terms of overall the design, the screen, which as you know is a point of failure that you can look online, and there have been issues about it. I'm not the only one, but that being said, I think that the Charge 4 kind of fits somewhere well in between the Inspire HR and the Versa 2 they have. The Versa 2 doesn't have standalone GPS, but it's a little more of an integrated smartwatch. But if you're new to this market and you really have to have the GPS feature, then I say go for it. You can perhaps get an extended warranty or something like that. But for me, the Inspire HR is really the best bang for the buck. It's $99. I found it on discount. I think I got it for $80. So pretty affordable. And when I run, like I said, for music, I do have my phone on me anyways, so I don't really need the GPS feature of the Charge 4. If the Charge 5 comes out in a couple years or in a year and has wireless charging, built-in GPS, better battery life, the whole 9 yards, music integration, then I can definitely see myself switching to that. But they have to switch the screen. That's the only issue.